Thank you so much, Terry, Dr. Carell. I really appreciate the introduction. Welcome to everyone. Thank you for sticking around with us. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. My panel and I, we have the unenviable task of speaking to a crowd of persons whose bellies are full and who probably want to have a nap. But we will try to be as interesting as possible and as engaging as possible so that you can bump up and be part of our discussion here this afternoon. We have an extremely distinguished panel, and I don't use that word lightly, an extremely distinguished panel of CEOs in the Caribbean region who has graciously accepted our offer to sit and discuss with you the potential for investment in the Caribbean region. So I will waste no time in introducing the panel, and this is probably going to take me a couple of minutes because everybody has so much accolades that I don't want to pass them up. So we will start immediately with Mr. Tyrone Wilson, who is the president and CEO of Icreate Limited. Icreate Limited is listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange Junior Market. It is a digital and creative group of companies with divisions in advertising, training, media, entertainment, and commercial real estate. Tyrone's passion for entrepreneurship and innovation has fueled the strategic growth and success of his company, and his vision is to develop the region's creative economy and to make the Caribbean and Latin America a powerhouse in the digital and creative world. He's currently the director of One-on-One Educational Services, chairman of Get Paid Limited, an e-commerce company, founder and chairman of investment holdings company, Kintyre Holdings Limited, and executive chairman of real estate company, Parallel Real Estate Ventures Limited. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in banking and finance from the University of the West Indies, Mona. Please join me in welcoming Tyrone. Next, we have Mr. Abraham Smith, who is the CEO of Digicel, Trinidad and Tobago. He was appointed CEO in November 2020, and he brings with him more than 20 years international senior management experience to that role, having previously worked in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Russia, and the Americas. He first joined Digicel in February 2019 as the consumer director, where he led Digicel's consumer and digital businesses, as well as marketing and business intelligence for more than 2 years. He was instrumental in conceiving and driving customer-first digital initiatives that resonated with customers and staff, and his contributions have translated into increased usage and revenues, which saw Digicel record its best ever year in TNT in 2019. Abraham has a degree from Georgetown University International Business and has taught as an adjunct professor of digital marketing in the at the LDS Business College in Salt Lake City, Utah. He currently sits on the advisory board for the Institute of Gender and Development Studies, University of the West Indies. Abraham lives in Trinidad and Tobago and is married with 2 daughters. Let's welcome Abraham. Next on the panel, we have Mr. Christopher Williams, CEO of Proven. Christopher Williams is the co-founder and CEO of Proven Management Limited, which is the management company of Proven Group Limited. He continues to set the bar high in the finance industry through his pioneering achievements, guided by his leadership. Proven is an established force to be reckoned with across the business landscape, locally, regionally, and internationally. His visionary outlook made Proven Group the first company to be listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange US market. The company also just earned over US $10 million in profit for the first 2 years of its operation. Additionally, through private placement in 2010, the equity raised by the company still represents as one of the largest private or public US dollars offerings in Jamaica's capital market history. Christopher has earned numerous accolades for his accomplishment. In 2017, he received the nomination for the Renowned Business Leader Awards, a recognition reserved for the top CEOs in Jamaica. But before these accolades, his journey to excellence was launched by his academic achievements, where he attended Jamaica College and would continue his education at the University of the West Indies, where he earned a BSc in accounting. He later earned an MBA at the prestigious Schulich School of, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, School of Business at the York University in Toronto, Canada. There's a whole lot more, but I'm sure Christopher will cover it when he gives his presentation. I just want to add, in addition, because this is important, in addition to being his image as a business leader, Christopher is a devoted husband to his wife Michelle and father of 2 sons and enjoys sports in his free time. Give it up for Christopher Williams.
I didn't know this thing.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Next, we have Ms. Karen Yipchuk, who is Vice President of Republic Bank Financial Holdings. Karen Yipchuk has been appointed Group Vice President of Republic Financial Holdings Limited and Vice President of Republic Bank Limited. As a banker for more than 30 years, she served in a number of senior management positions within the bank. She currently serves on the boards of Republic Bank Grenada Limited, Republic Bank St. Martin, Trin Trust Limited, and Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. She is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, the Heriot-Watt University of Edinburgh, and is a certified internal auditor and an associate of the Association of Chartered Institute of Banking. Ms. Chuck previously held positions as the General Manager, Commercial and Retail Banking and had oversight of the branch network in Trinidad and Tobago. She was also responsible for the Credit Card Center, which has responsibility for credit card issuing and merchant acquiring in Trinidad and Tobago. Other executive positions previously held were General Manager, Corporate and Investment Banking, General Manager, Wealth Management, and General Manager, Internal Audit. Welcome, Karen. And last, but certainly means not least, we have Mr. Gervase Warner, President of the Massy Group. Gervase is the President and CEO of Massy Holdings Limited, which is one of the largest investment holding groups in the Caribbean with an annual revenue of greater than $2 billion, and with operations in the US, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Guyana, Colombia, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Jamaica, and many other countries in the English-speaking Caribbean. He has served as the Executive Director for Massy Group for 16 years, and from 2004 to 2009, he held the position of Executive Chairman of the Energy and Industrial Gases Business Unit and has been President and Group CEO for the last 11 years. Before joining Massy, Mr. Warner was a partner at the international management consulting firm McKinsey & Company, where he spent 11 years serving clients in the US, Latin America, and the Caribbean across a wide range of industries. He currently serves as the chairman of the CARICOM private sector organization. He also serves as board of directors for the Citicorp Merchant Bank Limited and the Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business and United Way, Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Warner holds an MBA from the Harvard Graduate School of Business Administration and a BSE degree in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. Please welcome Mr. Gervase Warner. So I told you that would have taken a few minutes.
Too long.
So let's jump right into it. What I would like to do is to have each panelist just sort of introduce, say a few words about their business and their investment strategies and what they have been able to accomplish in the region. And we will start immediately with Mr. Tyrone Wilson. So I'll turn it over to you, Tyrone.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's quite a pleasure to be here speaking with you about my company, our journey, and our intentions within the Caribbean. I'd like to, of course, say hi to my esteemed panelists. Very privileged to be here. I would like to single out Chris Williams, my first investor, who actually, believed in me right out of university, and is a part of why I'm here today. So, Chris, thank you. Happy to be here. Yes. So that alone shows that Chris is actually a good investor. I think he has seen multiple returns at this point. So my company is Icreate Limited, and as mentioned in the introduction, we're a digital and creative group of companies. We focus around aiming to build the digital and creative ecosystems within the Caribbean. We started out in 2018, and pretty shortly after we listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market, really as a startup and becoming one of the first at the time, which was our focus, an educational company, the first to be listed then, and being one of the youngest CEOs on the market. Since then, COVID started, and we started to reposition our company, and we decided to evolve further into a digital and creative group of companies. So we have our institute, Icreate Institute, which focuses on short skills around digital and creative training. As we know, that's so important now coming out of COVID with digital transformation and skills training. We own a creative agency, and we really just acquired a digital outdoor billboard company, Visual Vibe, back in Jamaica. We had some presence here in Trinidad, partnering actually with Digicel in 2020, launching out our digital skills training program. You know, at Icreate, we believe that, you know, our creativity, or skill sets within the Caribbean region is unique, you know, based on our stories, and we haven't been able to really capitalize globally like some of the other companies, you know, the Disney and the Time Warner and so forth. And our intention at Icreate really is to become that Disney of the Caribbean, that Time Warner of the Caribbean, investing in creativity, you know, in content, in TV, in film, upskilling, you know, individuals to be able to have that skill set that is comparable to folks in the more mature markets, and to be able to export our creativity. And we're doing that at a very high and public level, meaning we decided to list on the stock exchange really because creativity, as we know, even though it makes up 5% of GDP globally, it is still not recognized from an investment perspective within the Caribbean. So I took a bet, really, and to put Icreate on the stock exchange and to get the investment public to buy into our vision of building a digital creative group of companies and becoming a powerhouse in the digital and creative space regionally and in the Latin America. And I think that will add significant credibility to who we are. It will add significant credibility to creativity, and it will attract investment at a high level. So at Icreate now, we have over 3,000 shareholders being on the market. Our company is actually one of the best performing stocks in Jamaica this year. At one point, the best performing stock having increased close to about 450%, and one of the top three for sure. And that is an indication, you know, myself and our team at Icreate, that we are really publicly engaging everyone as it relates to creativity. Not only are we saying what we're doing, but we're actually investing our time, our energy, and resources. Having acquired Visual Vibe, having sent out our first sets of consecutive growth in terms of profitability, our first time being profitable this year, and you know, revenue growth of over 200-300% each quarter, and so forth. People are now realizing and taking creativity more seriously within the Caribbean. So our kind of investment strategy is to continue to build on that. And of course, we know no better way to do that than being a publicly traded company and delivering for our shareholders.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I have about 4 questions here to ask, but we'll move on. So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Smith. Yeah.
Great. So nice to be here. It's unique for me to be up on a stage, sitting down, constrained. I'm used to walking out and being close to folks. But it's nice to be here today, and it's nice to be here with folks that we do business with every day, both here in Trinidad and Tobago, and multiple connections in Jamaica as well. How's the football league going? Going good?
Fantastic.
Good. It's good. So Digicel, I'm the CEO here in Trinidad and Tobago, but Digicel across the Caribbean. We're in 25 countries in the Caribbean and Latin America. Over 10 million customers. Chances are you're one of my customers. If you're not, see me after, and I'll get you signed up. And we've invested over $5 billion over the past 21 years into the Caribbean. And so this is someone who's only been with the group for 4 years. It's been I watched from afar back. I remember in 2007, looking at, maybe it was Alta Vista or Yahoo. I'm not sure it was even Google, but seeing red umbrellas and red bags and red T-shirts, and seeing what Digicel was doing and breaking up monopolies, going into different countries in the Caribbean. And it's been phenomenal to see how solving the problem that needed to be solved then, which was affordable connectivity, that was the core of what we did. And I think what's exciting now is looking at the problems for the future, which is how do we grow the digital economy, and how do we create that digital foundation for that digital economy in the Caribbean? That's something we're really excited to be working on. So we're excited about the work that we're doing, connecting homes with fiber, connecting businesses with fiber, working with businesses like those sitting next to me to make sure that not only can they reach customers, but can they do that with the right security in mind, with cybersecurity and the challenges that that's facing now, facing it with reliability, with subsea cables and redundancy. So we're excited about the work that we're doing in solving today's problems and tomorrow's problems. And so we've got a lot of confidence in the Caribbean and a lot of confidence in the growth of the digital economy for the future.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Williams, over to you.
Hey, thank you. Finally back in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. This is one of my first times in Trinidad not being, half naked and and drunk. So it's a little unusual, but
That could be arranged.
but yeah.
Very easily.
Feels good. It feels good. But I'm just saying, expect anything this weekend. I would say that Proven is your BFF. That's how we want you to think of Proven. Proven is your best financial friend. And what we have found is that the international capital market has flown over the Caribbean for the last 100 years. They fly over to go to the other side of the pond. They fly over to go to North America. They fly over to go to Latin America. Everybody keeps flying over us. So as a group of financial professionals, we decided back in 2009, after the crash of 2008, we decided that we needed our best financial friend, our BFF, to be right here, who understood our language and who would dance and prance on the streets of Port of Spain, half naked with you. So we set up Proven, and over the last 12 going 13 years, we built out a financial powerhouse. We have close to $3 billion of capital that we constantly look to deploy. And that's why we're here. Thank you for inviting us. We want to talk. We want to be your BFF. So, like Digicel, if you're not a client, see me afterwards.
Thank you. Karen?
Hi, afternoon everyone. So, Karen Yipchak, I represent Republic Financial Holdings Limited, the largest indigenous financial institution in the English-speaking Caribbean. And if Proven wants to be a BFF, I think we are your godmother. Because, looking at my esteemed panelists here, everybody needs a strong partner behind you to help realize your dream, your vision. And that's what the Republic Financial Holdings Group is about. Now, yes, you need a partner, but we also have a great growth story to share because the fundamentals are the same, regardless of what organization, what sector you come from. So today we are the largest financial institution across the region and all the way from Guyana and Suriname in the south up to Ghana in Africa. But it hasn't always been that way. And really, over the last 30 years, we have grown out from being a Republic Bank Limited in Trinidad and Tobago only to this trajectory. And what is our growth story? Our story is the fact that we recognized 30 years ago that we needed to diversify our risk, just like many of you all think that you have to do as well. So we came out of Trinidad And we sought to balance our portfolio by growing across countries, by growing across currencies, and by growing across sectors. So we saw that in Trinidad and Tobago, strong oil and gas, you couldn't just stay in one economy alone. And we have moved across other countries now that balances the portfolio with strong activities in tourism and also other sectors to also complement the oil and gas, Guyana, Suriname, and Ghana. Now, what that has done for us is really helped us because in some of those economies, when sometimes the price of oil is up and those economies are doing well, tourism could be impacted. So it helps balance that. But also what it does for us, by positioning us across the region, we are able to now leverage that strength and bring it to you, our customers or prospects or potential customers, so that really the value that we bring to all of you all here on the panel and to all of you listeners is that we could do a lot of introductions of our customers, of your peers, of business opportunities across the region, and we could show you how we did it because we had to go in and understand the legislation, the regulators, how to set up business. We've worked with all the great advisors, one to my left, some in the audience there, helping us to establish and understand the risk in those economies and to facilitate you moving forward in those sectors. You don't have to go through the same things we did. Because when we bring you together and we bring our customers together, we facilitate those introductions and the lessons learned that we went through. So, as your fairy godmother, we will help your growth and the realization of your vision going forward. And watching this time, I know we're talking here about how we as a private sector could help economic transformation. Well, we're at that stage now as well, in that a lot of our focus is on environment, social, and governance. Investing in sustainable agriculture, which I guess the panel will speak a lot more about, climate and energy, and ICT and digital. Those are all the areas that are critical to us, and we do have a significant role to play for ourselves and our continued transformation and in helping facilitate yours.
Thank you.
I prefer the BFF though.
We'll take a poll at the end. BFF, fairy godmother. That'll be added to the poll. Mr. Warner, what's you?
Good afternoon. Fantastic to be here. It's really nice to be in Trinidad. I'm from Trinidad. I love being here. Talking a little bit about growth in this Caribbean context. Next February 1st to be precise, the Massy group of companies will turn 100 years. And this is a huge milestone in the life cycle of our group of companies, but also a lot of lessons around growth. So the company was founded back in 1923. I mean, before we were independent, right? Any of us, by Harry, Neil, and Charles Massy coming together and facing difficulties in the Great Depression, and their banks put them together, and they forged this entity that could survive world wars and this sort of stuff that would be the company that we are today. But the reason that we can speak about growth 100 years in is somewhere around 68, 75, they started to transition leadership from the founders to professional management. And then there was this guy, Bull Moose, I think many of you would have heard of, Sidney Knox. And under his leadership, that's when Neil and Massy really began its international expansion, started to acquire a number of different companies, and became a conglomerate. Today, went through a little bit about all of the places that you could find the Massy group of companies from Guyana to North America. But what's important for us anyway is that as we have grown, we have recognized that, the most important part of how you grow is the people with whom you grow. And so for us, our vision is to be a global force for good, an investment holding company with a Caribbean heart. And we actually see that, like Tyrone here talking about, his vision to be a Disney. and to have Caribbean people be able to dream at a global scale. And what we've recognized is that we are blessed, not just with these intrinsic assets, whether it's oil and gas in Trinidad and Guyana or lovely beaches and climate in many of the islands. Our biggest blessing is our people. The warmth of Caribbean people, the ingenuity, the creativity of Caribbean people. And what we have found is that the way that we've leaned into that since, I would say, kind of awakening to, this, I'm going to use the word colonial, top-down leadership model, style. Actually, we kind of came to have to serve in it, as opposed to it was our own creation. So Chris talked about, playing carnival and reveling in the streets, and there's something that inherently our people love about freedom of expression and participation. And what we've worked hard at is to really invert that paradigm and really start operating our companies from a place of purpose, from a place of, I don't even want to use the word engagement because it's such an overused word, but a place where employees can come alive and can feel like they're part of creating something great, where they have voice, where they can be part of creating strategy for the future. And what we found is that as we have focused our group on the things that we know how to do really well, and we have given more autonomy with governance, enhanced governance, into our respective organizations, we've unleashed an energy that we call a Massy energy, and it is fantastic. People are more engaged, people are more free to be themselves, take risks, own and take responsibility. And why I'm saying all of this is because in my view, this is where the Caribbean can lean into for its greatest growth. It is where, industries will flourish that we didn't think about. It is where we can empower real, small and medium enterprises to be successful. So I did say I was going to plug Nudge. Nudge Caribbean is a social enterprise that the Massy Group set up. I'm plugging it because I'm hoping that there's some entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises in the audience. We set this up to help and assist entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises get a nudge, a little boost up in who they are, connecting them with professional networks, in some instances creating spaces for artisans to sell their products through our stores or display their products in our stores, connect them to people like Republic Bank or your BFF to assist with financing. It's really important, I think, and Republic Bank shares this ethos. It's really, really important for those of us who have become large institutions in the region to use our expanse of experience, our ability to help, to actually reach out and help, and to grow small and medium enterprises across the region. And this for me is part of who we are as a Caribbean. It's different. It's not like okay, I'm the biggest guy and I make so much money, and what do you use that for? And if you're not using that for the society, you're not using that for the economies, you're not using that for the people who support you through their sales and their participation and their employment in your organization, what was that for? So that's my quick intro on who we are and where I see the secret for growth in the Caribbean coming from.
Okay, excellent, wonderful. So I think we've set the table quite nicely. We have a few words in from everyone. So I have a few follow-up questions. I'll ask it maybe to specific participants, but feel free if you want to chime in and jump in. It's an open discussion. We're going to keep things light and informal, sorry. It's lunch. All right, so Tyrone, I really want to start with you. I mean, you talk about being the Disney, you want to be the Disney of the Caribbean, and you really value your creativity. But I think the first question I would have is that when you go to an investor or you go to a lending agency, how they always talk about valuing assets.
Yes.
And creativity is an asset.
Yes.
So can you give us your experience in how did you go about valuing creativity to attract that investment? while couching it to give advice to persons who are in your field about trying to get that investment in and selling themselves without necessarily having house and land and car, as we say here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, I wonder if you're a fly on the wall in a meeting I've had previously. But that's exactly what we were discussing. As we know, historically, accessing investment, whether it's a loan, preference share, or even equity, there has to be certain kind of collateral or something that is tangible. On the equity side, not so much, but certainly on the debt side. For us, when we were rolling out Icreate and when we were doing some deals in our other entities that's associated with Icreate, some of the things we looked at was the intangibles, in terms of our creativity, the content that we've produced over time, the original content, even at our school, the type of educational content, the curriculum, the syllabus, the course content, the work that went into it. How do we value that? And there was many kind of examples locally to follow. So we looked to some of the overseas companies like the Disney and the Netflix and these guys who, they create their own content or they license content from content providers. How we've seen them accounting for that, not necessarily the one that they license from third party, because that's a clear accounting, you just amortize it over a period of time, whatever the length of that license agreement is. But what they've done for the content that they create is that from an accounting treatment, they've looked at, building a model around, one, what's the cost that went into producing that content, and two, how long do you expect to earn from that content over time. So you'll see that on Netflix books, on their financials. You'll see that on Disney's financials too. We've looked at it. And even with working with some of the other companies that we're associated with, whether as a board member or so forth, those are the type of model we looked at. So one of the first things we did was working with a chartered business valuator. She was studied in Canada and understood how to look at those models. And we pitched it to our bankers and our investors locally. No, it wasn't easily accepted, but over time, once you've shown your ability to earn from that content, slowly they'll accept it. But from a banking perspective, we still have a long way to go in terms of accepting that. But I think, having an Icreate on the stock exchange, publicly delivering, publicly going through the rounds and so forth, I think over time it will help to change the perception around how do we value these intangible assets.
Okay, just a quick follow-up question, and I think you sort of touched on the point towards the end of your contribution. I mean, when you look at the US, when you look at the more sophisticated markets, they seem to have a system in place for valuing these types of assets.
Yes.
For the Netflix, for example, they know how to invest in it. What do you think we have to do in the Caribbean to get to that level and that point where we can actually look and put an accurate valuation and look at these types of creative investments as strong investments?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to do, as entrepreneurs in the creative field regionally, is to take our businesses or our craft more seriously. And what I mean by that is putting the structures around our creativity. Yes, the creativity is one thing, but we're business people. So we need the proper governance, we need our audited financials, we need all of these fundamentals in place. When you look at some of those companies in the more mature markets, it's because they've put those fundamentals in place that enable them to attract capital. I think, if we look at our music industry, we have in Jamaica reggae, dancehall music, we're the most popular music in the world. I mean, soca is also one of those most powerful music. What we've lost is our ability to structure that, the business perspective around it. We've seen a lot of musicians who have lost out on their royalties, and with streaming being so powerful and big now, we're seeing a lot of legal fights where, artists are competing for their royalties and so forth because those fundamentals were not secured in the US now and in the UK and in other major first, developed countries and first world markets. What we've seen is that they have strict kind of policies around it. Netflix will not collaborate, participate with you if you do have those structures, if you do have a studio, if you do have your accounting, if you don't have these things, and everything track back, you're able to measure it, you're able to invest in it, and build the value over time.
Oh, excellent.
Mm.
So, you
Yeah,
read my mind, Christopher.
Yeah,
I was coming to you.
I wanted to jump in there.
Yeah.
I want us to put to bed the notion that the financial markets in the Caribbean is limited to banking support.
Yes.
Right? Put that to bed. We have, well, certainly your BFF, certainly your BFF has put that to bed.
Yeah.
Right? The markets have expanded extremely well over the last 10 years. You now have solid platforms out there that will support you from a private capital perspective, that will ensure that your idea is funded, that your expansion is funded outside of loan capital. And in fact, that's one of that's our main calling card at Proven. We are primarily private equity investors. So let's end this discussion. You're no longer talking to a banker. You're talking to a BFF, right? And that BFF will find a solution for you, whether it be a private capital solution or a banking solution. But we've gone past that. So I want us to know, as Tyrone said, when you do talk to your BFF, you have to communicate, and the language of communication is financial statements. We don't speak Spanish, we don't speak English, we don't speak, patois, we don't speak, what's the patois in Trinidad? Patois? We speak financial statements. That's the language of business. So whatever business you're in, you have to put it in the language of business, which is, a financial statement, and a business plan.
Yeah.
So certainly, I don't want us to carry that legacy any further.
Yeah.
We're ready. I know the godmothers as well. We're ready for entrepreneurs to call us. We'll back you anyway.
Well, Christopher, maybe I can just... Oh, Karen, you want to jump?
Well, I do need to jump in here, right?
Of course.
So I definitely do agree with you. I mean, as the markets become more sophisticated, you have many options of getting financing as required by, the entrepreneurs, the startups, and so forth. So in many markets, you will have angel funding, you'll have venture capital funding, you will have the private equity and the being able to list on the junior stock exchange or the main stock exchange. And yes, you have bank financing. So, talking about that, I mean, Gervase spoke about Massy being 100 years old, RFHL 185 years old. So you would have had your strengths in your traditional bank financing, bank products and so forth. But there comes a time along the way that you pivot, right? And that's where we are right now, because as you continue to see the change in customers and their needs and that next generation, they are entrepreneurial and they don't have the normal collateral to meet traditional bank financing. But they will have the ideas, and you asked Icreate earlier, how do you value or quantify that asset? At the end of the day, whatever vision you have to make your business, you still have to make it into a bankable project.
Completely.
Because whether it's the bank financing or investor financing,
you have to make it into an investable project.
So investable / bankable. We speak in the same language. It's the same financial patois we talking here, right? So you have to make it worthwhile for the investor or the lender and so forth as the case may be. And this is where we could say that we pivot into, as a bank, we look at our bigger purpose. When you become large, you have a larger responsibility. to help make things happen. And our purpose is to help, people become successful. We value people, we care. How do we go about doing that? So one of the things, in the audience right now, I see a manager we've set up for our SME unit, and that is really to see how we could help our SMEs become more sustainable and to meet some of those financing needs, as the case may be. So they come with the idea, but financing is not all that the young entrepreneur needs. They need a lot more than that. Gervase and I were speaking about it earlier. They need technical advice. They need to understand how to make their idea or their vision materialize. They need probably access to markets. They need to understand how to package it, brand it, sell it, and so forth. And those are the things that we are bringing to the table. One of the things that we have is an Accelerate program where we are looking to partner with many players in this space, how to help the SMEs. So we've spoken to Massy and Nudge, we've spoken to Scale Up, to Draper House, to Luhu,
Caribbean Export.
to you, the export.
Yeah.
Many players to see how we, as one of the players, could help build out that ecosystem of support for that upcoming entrepreneur, right? So it's just to reinforce what Proven said. Traditional banking finance is one aspect of it. There are many other areas, and we will play in that space as well by bringing that support and partnering with other players to help the upcoming entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you so much about Christopher and Karen. That is actually the question I was going to pivot into, and the discussion flew quite naturally. So I have more in this area, but I think we have some time, but I want to go into other areas, and I want to give Abraham a chance to come in here. When you gave your remarks, you spoke about how you feel good about the Caribbean, in terms of your expansion, in terms of the work that you're doing in the Caribbean. We have a number of investors here who are looking to invest in the Caribbean region. What makes you feel good about the Caribbean region? And we've heard the speakers this morning talk about, the macro, stable political climate, all this type of stuff. But what do you look for? What makes it special for Digicel about expanding in the Caribbean and playing in that space?
Sure. So I think the first is, as we see, for us, as economies grow, we're going to grow.
Yes.
And especially as we all realize, as island economies, that traditionally have relied on tourism or some on oil and gas, like Trinidad and Tobago, that we have to get into the digital economy. And not just for our own citizens within our countries, but also that digital export economy. And that's what we're talking about here, the creative economy, the digital export economy. And so we're excited about growth for our business because we see that as the only way to go in the Caribbean is to build that ecosystem. To make that happen, there has to be a lot that goes into it. So we've talked a little bit about the financial ecosystem that has to go there, talked about some things on even how to value creative assets, but also connectivity is still a huge challenge in many economies.
Absolutely.
Trinidad and Tobago, we have about 85% of homes that are connected with fiber, but that's not the case everywhere. So we see enormous opportunity throughout the Caribbean to physically connect folks to that to the digital infrastructure, and then second, to connect the region. We're building today cables connecting South America into Trinidad and Tobago and up the islands. So yeah, we also agree with a young growing population, but also this transformation into the digital economy. There's still a lot of infrastructure, both physical, regulatory, legal infrastructure that still has to be built, and we're excited about being able to build that with companies. So that's why we're, from our business perspective, very excited about the future.
Great. I'll transition over to Mr. Warner. Along the same lines, Massy is omnipotent in the Caribbean region now. How do you feel about the Caribbean region in terms of your expansion strategies? Is there scope for future growth for Massy? Are you looking outside the region? Let's get an idea of your vision going forward in terms of Massy and where you see Massy going.
Yeah, to be honest, we're getting close to tapped out in the certainly English-speaking Caribbean.
Yeah.
One of the challenges we have is scale in the Caribbean, and Abraham talked about connectivity, which is very interesting because Digicel is in 25 countries, but you can't roam, you can't go seamlessly from one island to an island, and it's you can make them be the bad guys themselves and cable and wireless/flow, but it's not necessarily their fault because we've got 25 different regulators and 25 different sets of laws. And I'm saying this because, we talk about the investment climate in the Caribbean, 30 million people, and 30 million visitors. That's really not an addressable market. Even for a bank, have, 14 or 16 different regulators that you report to. This creates a huge cost to doing business. And why I'm bringing this up is because in a forum like this, I think it's important for us to speak plainly.
Absolutely.
And for us to be advocates of change. For us to really look like an addressable market of 30 million, we have to do a lot to break down barriers to being able to operate like one regional market. It's still very difficult to do business in certain countries, to get permits. Our Minister of Trade and Industry spoke this morning about the single electronic window, but it's only for certain things. So one of the things I think we have to do is to get serious about if we are going to make ourselves attractive for foreign direct investment, for us to fix some of this plumbing. And I think we all have roles as people in business, people in civil society, to say that is our expectation, that we will be part of a larger market. We talked this morning about the agri investment opportunities, and I saw just today in the paper, Guyana looking to put some restrictions associated with the importation of fruits and vegetables from places like Brazil, etc., because they're landing in Guyana cheaper than the Guyana agricultural growers could make them, and they complain about cost of wages. And we have so many people from so many places in the Caribbean who are looking for work. There's this free movement of people, and agricultural workers was just approved by the CARICOM leads, but it still can't be implemented. So there are a number of challenges that maybe you don't want to speak about them, but let's be honest, they are there. And if we don't start to really put pressure to address some of these things that have been there as long as CARICOM existed for 50 years, then we won't really live up to this addressable market that we were talking about earlier this morning. So certainly from a Massy perspective, we continue to invest in the Caribbean in our three main portfolios. We continue to put down new plant. We continue to make acquisitions in the space. We know the markets very well, so that the consumers know and our business partners know us very well. And that's a huge advantage of incumbency, because we've learned how to figure out to do business here. And but for foreign direct investors, it's not nearly as easy. So that's my candid response.
Christopher?
Yeah, let me. I think that I'm very excited about the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. I think we are blessed to be in the Caribbean at this time, and the time that we're living in now is one in which the capital of the Caribbean is focused on investing in the Caribbean. For whatever reason, the level of capital flight is not that significant. We're still seeing more phone calls about what are the opportunities locally than buying stock on the NASDAQ or the wherever. So that's great. So what are the opportunities that I think are fantastic? I love the brand, the financial brand of some of the Caribbean islands. That has done very well for the Caribbean when you take a look at what has been achieved in Bermuda, BVI, and Cayman as some examples, that has been able to attract significant amount of global capital and certainly multiply the liquidity and the financial strength of those markets way beyond the size of their domestic population. Secondly, our God-given beauty, and the fact that it attracts people either for temporary accommodation or for permanent accommodation. That's just huge. Our hospitality industry is still, underdeveloped. We still, certainly coming from Jamaica, we still have great opportunity for growing temporary accommodation, and certainly in places like Barbados and Bahamas and Cayman and BVI, permanent accommodation from global citizens is huge. You go into Cayman, you don't see any houses for sale, but you go online and you look, as a New Yorker, Cayman properties are just popping up and they're just being picked up by international residents. So permanent accommodation in the islands is still huge. So that gives us an opportunity to satisfy that. So and that multiplies the aggregate demand way beyond just the 30 million people.
Yeah.
And then finally, I still see a great opportunity in exporting the culture. The culture is exported. Massy and the Grace Kennedys and so on are doing that in exporting the culture through talent, through people. So just by putting that Massy energy into their team members in Colombia or North America or so on, that's a part of exporting the culture. So the success of a Massy investment in those countries is because of that, that little energy that the people have because of the Caribbean, as well as in the food, as well as in the music, as well as in the parties. Trinidad, carnival parties are everywhere for the whole year. You can literally travel the whole world, just doing, carnival parties. So we are making great strides, and the time that we're living in now is saying, come to me with whatever. If you want to build a hotel, if you want to set up, a mass band in Miami, if you want to set it up in Nottingham, for their carnival, the export of the Caribbean culture is huge and is demanded, and the capital from Caribbean people is saying, I want to back my people. That's what the capital is saying. The capital is not flying.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. It's staying right here, and it's staying either in a bank or it's going into the stock market. So now is the time for us to unleash our entrepreneurial energy.
Yeah.
So we need more entrepreneurs calling us. We need entrepreneurs to get up and let's take some risks. Let's get some more Neil and Masses.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think you're saying you're speaking the language of, I think, everybody in the room, supporting businesses and coming out there, doing new ideas, taking advantage of our creativity and our innovation. Now, we have about a few minutes to go, but I want to invite the audience to ask questions, because I don't want it to be only myself asking questions. But while we get the mics, persons to think about their questions and we get the mics circulated, I just want to ask a question to transition to that. We're talking about stock exchange. We're talking about, you guys are listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. We have a Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. We have a Barbados Stock Exchange. It's up to debate whether how the level of investments that's going on under these stock exchanges for another level. What about a regional stock exchange? What are your thoughts on that? Can we or should we have a regional stock exchange whereby companies can list from across the region and have one market for trading, And I'll open it to anyone who wants to jump.
I'm going to start debating. Because we are traded in Trinidad, and we just recently crossed in Jamaica, and it's a really great experience to cross. And we were cross-listed in Barbados at one point in time. And I spoke at the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, I think a couple of weeks ago, on their 40th anniversary. And what was amazing was that every single head of stock exchanges within the Caribbean, all 5 heads, were at a table together. And this idea is an idea that I think its time has come. And there's a lot of interest, certainly from listed entities, certainly seeing the experience with the junior market in Jamaica. I know that we're attempting to do something similar in Trinidad. And at that conference, they introduced this regional composite index, which is an index of all shares traded in all the 5 exchanges across the Caribbean. And they had this idea to start it, I think, in January of this year. And they had already implemented it by the end of October, which showed this level of, I think they, and Eva Mitchell is here. Somewhere in this audience, I saw Eva Mitchell at the Brazil conference. Eva, you should stand up and take a round of applause from people, because I know that you're a big part of making it happen. There she is, you see? All right. But to me, this is absolutely possible. It would have a huge positive impact in getting greater capital into all of the markets. We could get more interested in one another's companies. We could have greater opportunities for small companies who who could speak the financial statement, that patois you're talking about, which many people don't speak, by the way. You could actually create this real desire for more companies to come out and do that, and get this capital that we're talking about, domestic capital, circulating and more directly targeted to places of growth. So I'm a big advocate of it. I think the time is now. Let's make it happen.
Tyrone?
Yeah, and I mean, just to reiterate, I certainly think moving towards that will help to push liquidity on the stock exchange across the board and all 5 exchanges. And I think if we're able to push, stronger liquidity for stocks, being able to exit and enter at any point in time, given the level of cash floating around, it will also trickle down to a greater level of investment in the startup phase. As we know, the problem that exists with a lot of startup investment in Jamaica, for sure, is how does that investor exit, right? How do they move, get their cash out and reinvest in something else, and if that's their investment strategy. What we know is that, when we were seeking our investors, moving to the stock exchange was critical, because we know that our early investors would be able to get an exit whenever they want to, right? So if we push that regional stock exchange, now we start to move the liquidity to a higher level. And of course, that makes it a more vibrant stock exchange, and more entrepreneurial activities, more innovation, more investment in products and services. But also, while that is happening, parallel, greater activity in terms of investing in younger entrepreneurs who will move in their business from a startup phase to move into the stock exchange and giving those investors an exit. So it's something that I definitely support too. We're a young company, we're on the market. It's something that we've been passionate about from day one, because we know that's just how we're going to build having a 100-year-old company over time like Massy.
Yeah. And a brand new one.
Karen?
So Damie, can I respond to that with a question?
Absolutely.
Maybe to Gervase?
Yeah.
So you made a point earlier about, for foreign direct investment to come into the Caribbean, the fact is each of the islands operating individually. And isn't it complicated by the fact that we each have our different currencies, and therefore the earnings of each of the companies is in the currency in the country that they are in? So if you want to talk about cross-listing on one regional stock exchange, then how would somebody be able to pay the dividends if they solely in Trinidad? And to prove on earlier, you said, there isn't any capital flight, but again, the perspectives are different depending on the country, economy, market that you're talking about. And if you're in a market where you don't have all the confidence that you could get back your currency when you want, then you have people who cannot come in right now and do foreign direct investment in Trinidad because they can't get the US to pay their dividends to the parent company when they want to, And you have plenty of companies right now who are building up significant earnings in TT dollars, but not able to get the US to pay their parent company, right? So isn't that vision of the one regional stock exchange affected or complicated by the individual earnings and currencies of each of the countries?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. But I think it is possible to create a settlement pool within the Caribbean that would be different from necessarily saying for every single foreign direct investor creating the opportunity for foreign exchange to, repatriate itself outside of the region. So this, what you just identified, quite frankly, is the big challenge in that project, right? How do you settle in all these different currencies? I think we could do it because we could set aside a finite pool for this settlement. And as investment grows, you could revisit the size of that pool. And yeah, you could say, well, that might restrict how much could be traded between the different countries, etc. But at least you get a place to start from. Just think of what that would do for us as Caribbean people. Like the interest in Tyrone's company, Icreate. I just hear about it today, but it's on the stock exchange and it's gone up by 450%. People start to say, well, maybe I could be a part of that too. So you're right, Karen. That is a major challenge, but it's not insurmountable. You could actually create some boundaries around it that, any of the countries could say, well, okay, I could tolerate that. And that becomes, some limits to what gets settled. But certainly trying to pull this thing off, I think, would be a wonderful opportunity for all of us.
Great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump
But,
in
the
on the issue of the currency, that Godmother raised. That is an opportunity. That is an opportunity. I mean, we grew up in Jamaica under currency challenges. It's a lot better now, but in the 90s and so on, it was a disaster for us. And how Jamaica pivoted is everybody started to sell something for US dollars. So if you're making music, you're printing your CD and you're going to Miami to sell it so you can collect some US. If you're in real estate, you're building the real estate and you're going to New York and you're going to the diaspora and you're trying to convince the diaspora to come and buy a house in Portmore for when you retire, in 20 years, and you're selling it for US dollars. If you're growing cane, you're cutting the cane, you're bagging it, and you're jumping on a plane to sell it in Brooklyn supermarket. So, and I'm sure, Gervase is doing the same. So I'm saying...
Cutting cane and selling it in Brooklyn.
Just to be clear, we're not selling cane I don't know if cane was a code word.
I think I saw him in Brooklyn on the side of the road. I'm just saying though, but that's what Neil and Massy last 100 years through world wars. So challenges build us. Challenges build us. So that's what the pivot is. The pivot is, as I said, the beauty of the Caribbean is that we attract international demand. Mm-hmm. We attract it in our financial markets in some of the countries. We attract it in hospitality, whether temporarily or permanently. You land in New York and everybody wants to come to Trinidad. You tell them you're going to Trinidad for a conference and they're like, what? Mm-hmm. They're crying. They want to be here as well. So that's the beauty that we have. Yeah. And we attract it in culture, yeah. Because they want to be a part of it. So, and your carnival people did that. They sat down and said, wait, 200,000 people want to come to Trinidad Carnival. Let me take it to New York. Mm-hmm. Let me take it to Nottingham. Let me take it to Miami. Mm-hmm. Let me take it to, Jamaica, Northern California. I mean, everywhere there's a carnival. Yeah. So that's gone. I mean, what we want are entrepreneurs that recognize that the Caribbean is a base of operation, not a place of operation. It's just a base. I mean, Gervase just lives here. You know what I'm saying? He's not looking at the numbers here. He's looking at numbers in currencies that I don't even know how to pronounce.
Okay. Let me open it up to questions. So we have one at the front here.
Christine.
And I'll ask if you, when you ask a question, identify yourself so we know who's asking.
Yeah.
And do we have a second question so we can get the mic to you to minimize the walking around?
Hi, good afternoon. Christine Thompson. I would like to address this vexing question of capital markets and financial markets in particular. I hear the arguments, Chris, very passionately about entrepreneurship and the private equity we're developing in the region and the stock exchanges, etc. But I think with the greatest of respect, the comment you made at the beginning about the foreign capital markets flying over the Caribbean, that is the most critical issue that we have. And so I couldn't agree with you more on, the Caribbean sort of luxury hospitality real estate market has taken off. So I work with a foreign direct investment solution on a large hospitality project. The interest rate trends that we've seen in the last 2 months have evaporated the availability of capital in this region for the best projects. And so why don't we see, Four Seasons everywhere? Why don't we see an Aman Resorts in some of the best real estate locations in the world? Because we can't get financed. I mean, we, for example, work with Republic Bank as a financial partner of mine, but we quickly reach capacity limitations. And beyond 50, 100 million, you're really looking around and you're not seeing anybody to the left and the right. And so, unless you are a strategic investor like an oil and gas operator, where you're bringing corporate capital into the region to invest in a Guyana or Trinidad or something, the pure financial investor at a large scale is absent. And my challenge to our panel is, why can't we must find a way. I mean, Chris, you're aware of the opportunities in financial markets. Karen, you are. How do we use our knowledge and our experience in the region and our connections to bridge that gap? We have to find partnerships that attract large-scale, deep-pocketed financial players to this region. And, Tyrone, what you are doing, absolutely essential. And we need to up that ante tenfold. But we also need to supplement with the critical mass of FDI dollars that will create the jobs and allow more people to have spin-off services that support large projects. And that is, I think, the elephant in the room of how are we solving that problem. And I feel now it is not quite the financial crisis of 2008, but it's not far off.
All right, can I answer?
Yes.
What's your name again?
Christine Thompson.
Christine Thompson. I'm Chris Williams. My email is cwilliams@weareproven.com. cwilliams@weareproven.com. You need a BFF.
There we go. I think
I am your BFF. I am your BFF.
I think the answer is there. We have to attract the foreign, which is what we're doing.
Christine, I'm telling you, forget that. First of all, let me say, the fact that a project is not financed is not exclusively the lack of capital. Some projects just are not financially viable. That's just the reality. So let me put that on the table. Not every project that is dreamt up by an entrepreneur is going to be investable, right? Because the risk metrics and the numbers just not going to meet the appetite of an investor. So let me just say that up front. But having said that, I am telling you, you need a BFF, and I'm here for you. I'm here for you. We got you. Capital is available. The international guys, yes, they're flying over, but we have their number. we know how to reach them. And you just need a BFF. That's my job. We're not seeing. Yes, of course, the markets go through ups and downs, and we're in a down right now. So you're going to get some challenges, but that's just the reality of life. But projects are financeable, and the sizes that you're talking about, those are not huge numbers within the context of the Caribbean market. I'm telling you. Yeah. So I'm not nervous. I'm not frightened by what you're saying. We got you. You've been talking to my godmother too much. Stop talking to her.
We have to give it time. Let's get another question. Let's get another question in. Who do we have next?
You're trying to make friends now.
No one? Come on, we have some of the most distinguished CEOs in the region. Now is the opportunity. Okay.
Oh. Can you start?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Yeah, and just give off the questions.
Yeah. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. So what I will do, I'll just ask. I was expecting more questions from the audience. I will just ask the panelists to give. We have 5 panelists. We have 5 minutes. Everybody, 1 minute. Closing remarks. What you want to impress. What you want to impress upon the audience here. Where we have a number of entrepreneurs, SMEs, investors. So 1 minute wrap up. So we'll start with Tyrone.
It started with me. Can we?
Okay, let's start with you. Actually, let's start with Abraham. Let's start with Abraham.
All right. No, fantastic to be here. I think one of the things that's cool is to see that we use the word. Several people use the word ecosystems and platforms and connection, and it's going to take all of us from the banking and other sectors. From those of us who've been here 100 years and 4 years, or how many? 5 years, right? And but the growth is here. We have the elements. We just all have to work together to pull them together. And I think I want to. I'm trying to trademark before he does. I love your phrase that it is a base to invest from, not only a place to invest into. And so. I'm excited, and I think you've seen the excitement and the ability that we have to not only build these ecosystems, but be successful in the ecosystems that exist and build the ecosystems for the future. So that's what I would leave with.
Thank you.
I would say that we started on the basis of what's the thought process on the Caribbean transformation. Is there a question?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there is a question.
There's a question. Oh, Mike. Do we have mics? Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Ignacio Smith from the Private Financing Advisory Network, PFAT, a UNIDO program. I'm just curious, why is it that we cannot have an enhanced revolving fund with a Pigovian tax, taxing all those contributors to greenhouse gases, and then leveraging that those contributions into investment in renewable energies and energy efficiency and anything that allows distributed resources to grow and expand countries' island development state economies. Thank you.
That's a structure that's used to galvanize capital into a fund, and then that fund is used to invest in a specific direction. That's essentially what that is. And I would say that from where I sit, there's not a significant demand for capital for energy efficient projects that are going unfulfilled. So if it's not going unfulfilled, then it means that capital from whatever sources are coming in and satisfying it. So if Massy is coming and saying they want to build, X megawatts of, renewables, they're attracting the capital. So there's not a need to create a special fund to attract, a pool to satisfy that. We have the capital that are satisfying. I mean, MPS that's listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. They're getting capital. As I said, Massy and all those other guys that are investing in various renewables, they're getting capital. So I don't see a lot of projects going unfulfilled.
Sir, I differ with your opinion because the region needs billions of dollars to be invested in climate change technologies and renewable energy and anything that can combat climate change. So if you don't use a Pigovian tax for developed countries who are the biggest distributors of greenhouse gases, how are we going to raise the money? And I believe that this is the same concept that was introduced by Professor Jeffrey Sachs in the last conference of the parties.
I'd like to just respond very quickly. I think one of the biggest challenges we have for renewable projects is renewable projects. And so in all of the countries, the renewable project has to connect into something unless you're doing it for yourself. And you need some scale to invest billions of dollars. So you've got to be able to put that onto the grid. And in a lot of countries, we are slow on regulation or we are slow on uptake. And I think that you're right, there is a big opportunity for us to do so. I think where we are slow is actually getting real opportunities for renewable projects. I know that we search for them around the region and they're not in abundance at this point in time. Hopefully in the future we will see that.
Great. Karen, maybe I can just give you
I will just add to that. I mean, we are seeing some renewable projects in the region, particularly like in Jamaica, Costa Rica, Barbados. I guess it really depends on, like, for example, in Trinidad, the cost of our energy is so subsidized and so forth. You're not really seen it yet, though the government has been talking about the Lara project. And we wait to see when that one comes off.
But it's one project.
Yeah, but capital is available. And you have a lot of the international players looking to put their capital towards helping finance a lot of these renewable projects, sustainable projects like agriculture. They're really just looking for good projects to put their money behind. And coming back to Republic Financial Holdings Limited, we ourselves have allocated $200 million US to fund renewable energy and climate projects throughout the Caribbean. We have set aside $100 million for agriculture projects across the region, and for Trinidad, $200 million to finance SMEs and industry and innovation and infrastructure as a start. So the capital is available.
Great. Thank you so much, panelists. Unfortunately, our time is up. Maybe we can continue the discussion. No, we're out of time. I apologize. Maybe you can have the discussion with the panelists afterwards. Thank you all so much. It was an absolutely wonderful, engaging discussion. A round of applause for our panel. I'd like you all to... Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so very much. I thought that was a very spirited conversation. We saw the godmother, we saw the BFF, we saw the creative. Then, of course, I don't really want to call Massy the grandfather, but I was only going to use that terminology because of the 100 years of celebration, which is quite the milestone. Thank you so very much for sharing. Certainly one of the biggest takeaways for me is that it's okay to be creative and it's okay for us to celebrate our creativity, but we must be business-minded. We have to formalize what that business looks like in order for it to be profitable. Thank you very much to our moderator, Damie Sinanan, who did a fantastic job at moderating and taking us through the discussion, both on stage as well as in the audience. Now, before we get into our next panel discussion, let's take a quick look at the Caribbean export video, Building a Resilient Caribbean.
Business is an exercise in resilience and innovation. and the Caribbean region's future looks brighter than ever. It's time for medium, small, and micro enterprises to discover their fullest potential, and Caribbean Export is here to ramp up its support. We empower companies to innovate and adapt in this high-risk and competitive environment by delivering cutting-edge, high-impact, and targeted initiatives to enhance trade and promote growth. Working with MSMEs in 15 Caribbean countries to increase exports, attract investment, and create jobs. We've provided support to over 9,015 stakeholders, including providing technical assistance, business coaching, grant funding, and mentorship. You can access specialized export programs, trade intelligence, and information on financing from our Knowledge Hub. We work with you to get results, increase sales, build and develop new products and services, export and expand into new markets, establish global networks and partnerships, transition businesses to the green economy and boost emerging sectors, drive regional integration to build resilience and sustainability in the Caribbean, and create more jobs and opportunities. Visit our website at carib-export.com and find out how you can be a part of building a resilient and transformative private sector in the Caribbean region.
That was beautiful, reinforcing building a resilient Caribbean, a Caribbean that is viable, sustainable.